Gundam.tk presents RX-78-2 Gundam version 2.0. Hey everybody, Robert184, 2Rs, 2Bs, and welcome to part 4. And finally we get to see the RX-78-2 Gundam Master Grade version 2.0 all put together. And you can click on the links below to see the incredibly impressive inner skeleton and all of the parts before it gets put together. To put it together, very simply, all you have to do is slide the ankle into the lower part of the leg, and that clicks in. As far as the waist section goes, just pull these out of the way, and you'll just plug this in here like this. And with that, you have the Gundam's legs put together. And you can already see how clean and clear they are. Very few panel lines, nothing fancy. But the mobility is all there. No problem at all swinging it forward. Bringing it back, if you move the side armor, it doesn't really want to go much further than that. As far as going out goes, pop up the side armor, and no problem, you could do the full set of splits. And with the leg mobility, as you've already seen, really, I don't think there's anything you can't do with the leg posability. As far as the upper arms go, all you have to do is just put the shoulder piece on first, and then follow that up by putting this on. And you'll end up with this kind of result. Here's a look at the upper body, including the missing core fighter. When I see something like this, it really makes me hope that they make a clear parts set for this, so that you could expose the inner skeleton like they did with the perfect grade. As far as mobility, arm, zero problems going out there. Can come out like this. You can bend it this far forward by pulling out the arm piece, and just a little bit back, and otherwise, yep, again, really there's nothing that you can't do. It can reach around and scratch its own lower back. Good for you, Gundam. Now the core fighter is just fantastic with this. One small problem is that these weapon packs, they can pull out, but you have to use a toothpick or something to get them out. They're not easy, and really you should add a little bit of paint. They should be dark gray. But overall, the look of the core fighter is just fantastic. And what you have to do is transform that, and then that will go inside the chest cavity as the core block. Now the transformation of the core fighter is very simple, but I think Transformers could learn from this how well this is designed. Basically, you just slide in the front part, and then what you do is you pull this down, and as you do that, you can see that the tail fin is being pulled forward, and then it ends up getting pulled down almost by itself. Just help that out a little bit. The wings, you just push them in ever so slightly, and then close that up, and now we have a core block, and you can see that that's going to attach on here at the bottom of the legs. Here is the core block attached to the bottom of the legs, and all you're going to have to do is take the upper body and slide that down over top of the core block and push it into place, and then you can see this all put together. And here it is, all put together, the RX-78-2 Master Grade Gundam version 2.0. I purposely got this in a lousy old school pose, but you can see a few things right from it. I think the proportions are fantastic, but the hands might be a little bit oversized. Here it is at a 45. Here it is from the side. I haven't put the backpack on. Back 45, and the back shot. It's very, very clear that the old school colors with the blue, the orange, the red, and the white, everything goes together, and this is as classic a look I think that you could get for a Gundam. Once you add on the backpack and the beam sabers, that's pretty much it. I've said this before, but that's as classic as you can get for looks. Now the shield has no problem clasping on. Basically there's just a hole in the back of the arm that you click this onto, and then put the arm around the lower part, and you can slide this up and down. With the shield on, you actually get a lot more posability than you do with a regular Master Grade. No problem bringing it forward. You can protect forward, off to the side, bring it across the chest like this, so a big step up on older versions. For the beam rifle itself, there's no problem putting this in because it has a peg in the actual palm itself, so that can stick on there pretty well. Loaded with everything, beam rifle, bazooka strapped on to the back of the waist armor, and shield. Very clean, very classic, very little kibble or gray parts exposed in this version 2.0. Size comparison time. On the left you have the oldest, the first, arguably the greatest Gundam on the wall, and on the right you have the newest, the Double O Gundam from the show airing right now. They both stack up, they're both 18 meters, and they do a pretty good job of getting the size just right for both of these 1/100th scale models. Now here's Amuro's Gundam up against the later Universal Century suits, namely here the V1 Gundam, which is high grade, not master grade, and over here you have the Crossbone Gundam from the manga, which is 15 meters and right in line size-wise with this Gundam. So even though it seems pretty small, it does stack up no problem against the other ones, and the proportions seem to be just fine. Finally, on the left you have Amuro's first Gundam from the original series, and on the right you have the massive new Gundam, which is Amuro's final suit, well, from the anime anyway, from the movie Char's Counterattack. And with the fin funnels on, the new Gundam towers over the regular Gundam, as it should, but as far as proportions go, I think when you look at the left that you can just see that the proportions of this Gundam are right in line with the anime, and the new Gundam, well, they just missed with the proportions. If there was any doubt about how well put together this Gundam is, if you take a look at this, the balance that you can achieve on just the tip of one toe and over here, and you can pull off some very, very cool looking poses with this. Now the only complaint, I left this off to show you, is that when you're doing some of your poses, especially the waist armor, is a little bit easy to knock off. So that's something you just have to move it first before you actually bend the pieces out. But that right there says to me that this Gundam can do anything. Just a back shot. The heel armor also popped off posing it. A master grade or 1/100th model, I always recommend getting a clear action base, and you can pull off all sorts of different aerial poses. Some of them good, some of them bad. This one's pretty bad, but you get the idea. Put them up in the air, and there's a lot more options for what you can do with it. Some final impressions of this model. Half of the fun for this model for me is the fact that, despite the fact that I haven't bought the perfect grade Gundams yet, if you build this one, it's practically the same thing. When you go inside, the internal frame here is as good as the perfect grade. Well, maybe 90% is good. There's really nothing that it can't do in terms of posability. You're really just limited by your own imagination. A couple small knocks against the thing. One thing that they could have done, that they did with older versions of the master grade, is they could have given you a core block so that you can take out the core fighter and put it on display while still having the stability. You can take it off and still pose it, but it loses a little bit of stability. You can also see a fair bit of the inner frame here depending on how you pose the waist armor, but again, that's something that I'm happy to trade for the posability. The weapons that they give you, between the extra napalm shooter, the hyper bazooka, everything, these are all unnecessary things, but hey, they're nice to have, and the fact that they give them to you are great. So hopefully we'll see a clear skeleton for this, but really, in the future, I think every single master grade that I build now is going to be judged up against this Gundam version 2.0. So if you're a fan of the anime, and you don't mind the old school proportions and cartoony hands and cartoony head, I would say that this is my highest recommendation and the best Gundam model master grade that I've built ever. With me being lousy at posing the Gundam, even though you can do anything with this, here's a couple of shots from the manual. of different poses that you can pull off with this. And I'll probably do each of these slowly over time. And a couple more from the box. That's a pretty classic shot, slicing through the first Zaku he ever met. So whether you're slicing off a goof's arms, or jumping off the head of a dome, or firing up in the air for one final shot at your arch rival, there's really nothing you can't do with this.